Well, Graham Downey is the Labour MP for Dunfermline and Dollar. He supports more drilling at both Rosebank and Jackdaw. Graham Downey, welcome to the Times at 1.
Good afternoon, Stephen.
Is this the case of you and indeed Andy Burnham's Labour government preparing to abandon the net zero goal, the idea of a comprehensive energy transition, decarbonisation?
No, absolutely not. This is about making sure we can actually achieve those things. But I think in order to do that, we've got to be a bit more pragmatic about how we go about it. And crucially, what we've got to make sure we don't do is have communities in Scotland and actually across the UK who work in the offshore energy industry like oil and gas paying the penalty for successive governments not moving quick enough to move us towards a low carbon economy. If we want to make sure we do get to that position, then we need the skills and the supply chain that currently exist in oil and gas to make sure we can do that more effectively. If we want to tackle climate change properly, and we absolutely must, what we need to do is reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. But at the moment, what we have is a situation where if we are not using our own oil and gas supplies, we're importing it from other parts of the world. That's not actually tackling climate change effectively.
I'm struggling to keep up with you and your logic here. You're saying that to cut our reliance on fossil fuels, we must increase our reliance on fossil fuels. Is that right?
Absolutely not. We must reduce the demand for fossil fuels in the UK and decarbonise our economy. But at the moment, the UK Climate Change Committee and a consensus says that we will require oil and gas for decades to come, up to 2050 at least. So the question is, where are we getting it from? And I think what we should be focusing on is getting it while we still need it, in a way that supports UK jobs and supports UK communities, and make sure we have the skills so that we can also take advantage of the low carbon jobs that are coming in the future.
It feels an awful lot like the Burnham government may well be about to bow to pressure from the right in the United Kingdom, both the Conservative Party and the Reform Party, who are absolutely dead set on calling for more oil and gas production off the North Sea, and also bowing to pressure from Donald Trump in America, who said that it would be insane for Britain not to exploit all of its oil and gas resources. Is that what's happening here, that you are bowing to the pressure?
Absolutely not. And I think this is where there's a fundamental difference in what you hear from Reform in particular, who are full of climate change deniers, who don't believe we've got a problem and who believe we can just continue to use oil and gas and fossil fuels right into the future. I don't believe that's the case. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges humanity has ever faced, and we must make sure we're tackling it effectively. But at the moment, we have a situation where we're going to require the consumption of oil and gas in the UK for as I say, for decades to come, particularly the gas network, which is a challenge for the UK. We must make sure that we do reduce demand for fossil fuels so that we are tackling climate change, but we must do that in a way that doesn't harm communities. So quite the opposite from what we hear from Reform and the Conservatives.
Well, I'm not sure it's quite the opposite. Let me quote you some words that were used 3 years ago when the initial green light was given to Jackdaw and Rosebank. These words went like this: that it represented a decision that was tantamount to climate vandalism, and we must block all new oil and gas production in the North Sea. Have you got any idea who said that just 3 years ago?
I know it certainly wasn't me, and that wasn't my view. I've worked with
I wasn't going to accuse you of saying it, but I'll tell you who did say it. It was Miatta van Buller, who is now the Energy Secretary. She believed that with all of her heart just a couple of years ago. If she now oversees a green light being given to Rosebank and Jackdaw, what kind of credibility has she got?
I think this is a challenge where the circumstances have changed. Miatta's an incredibly intelligent person who knows the energy sector very well indeed. And I think your view can change over a period of time. I think that's a natural
your political pragmatism might tell you your views got to change. It doesn't mean the issues at the heart of it have changed at all.
I think it does actually, Stephen. We've got an increasingly volatile world where energy security is a vital issue as well.
I'm sorry to interrupt because I know it's unpleasant, but if I may say so, all the evidence says the climate emergency is more urgent today than it was even 3 years ago.
I agree with you. I think this is what I'm saying. It's correct. We must tackle climate change. We must reduce our carbon usage. That's absolutely true. But
says the man who is sitting down with me and saying we must dig and drill for more oil and gas in the North Sea right now, produce more emissions over many more years.
Stephen, this is exactly the point. We must reduce the demand for those fossil fuels. If we don't use our own oil and gas supplies, we'll be importing it from other countries instead. And so that is the dilemma we face at the moment. And I don't believe it's the correct thing to do to harm communities in Scotland and across the UK, including in my own constituency here in Fife, in a situation where all we're going to be doing is importing that oil and gas instead.
I appreciate you may have some local reasons why this matters a great deal to you, but in terms of the nation and this messaging about jobs and infrastructure, surely the money that's about to be poured, if I'm right in assuming that the green light will be given to Rosebank and Jackdaw, the money that's about to be poured into those projects could be poured into renewable projects, into greening our energy system, in ways which would both provide economic growth and not put more emissions into the atmosphere.
We are doing that as well, Stephen. I think there's an unfortunate thing in this debate where it's become a polarised. You're in favour of one thing, which means you're against renewables, which is not true. I'm a huge proponent of renewables. I worked with the renewable sector for over a decade before I was elected as an MP. This is not a binary choice. We currently need oil and gas. We're going to be using oil and gas for decades. We must use this time that we have now to make sure we are increasing our spend on renewables. I also want to see more nuclear in Scotland. I want to see more battery storage. I want to see more hydro. We need all of these things if we are to tackle climate change effectively. And for the UK to be a leader in that, we need the skills and the supply chain that we currently have in oil and gas, or we will be less likely to reach that low carbon future that is inevitably where we must direct what we want to do.
Graham Downey, MP, many thanks indeed for joining me on The Times at 1.